This is going to be the last video about Murray and Richard's methods. And the reason for that is I've given you about as much general information as I can share with you without actually seeing you as a student and see you play and see what you're doing and what may or may not need, correction or guidance or further information. But this last video, I'm going to slow everything way down. Instead of playing all these rudiments and demonstrations of stuff, I'm just going to show you some motions and how everything works in your body and upper body, and try to help you break maybe some of those habits that are ingrained into your body from playing that marching method. The whole idea with this upstroke is that it's led by the wrist. And an upstroke in the beginning is learned to increase the downward force and get an accent. So that naturally occurs when you lift the wrist. I'm going to make a straight line here, straight up. Kind of weird. What I'm trying to get at here is if you bend your wrist, you notice how it moves the elbow out, and if I keep lifting it, now the weight of the arm is being pulled by the wrist. The shoulder is relaxed. This is hanging there. I'm in that same posture a piano player uses, but when I bend my wrist, I let the weight of the stick in my hand hang down as I keep raising here, like a puppet. If you raise this straight up, everything hangs, and you'll notice what happens. So the wrist moves the arm, and that puts the weight of the arm in play to create force as it's dropping in to the floor. There's a little wrist turn to redirect the force. Now, yes, I can add more acceleration on the way down and get a louder note, but you'll find once you learn how to go up and down faster that you only really got to come up about that high. All of this is in play now, and the minute you turn, that weight transfers. So you'll discover you don't really get much more volume coming up this high. A little bit. It's more dramatic though, and it's more in the feeling of playing, and you're probably going up for some cymbals or to some tom-toms. So you do move farther than this, but I'm just talking about right here on the snare drum. If you relax and let that weight transfer into the stick. Pow. It's the same thing classical concert pianists do. They transfer that weight into the notes. And when I've watched great conga players, I forget his name, the guy that plays in Eric Curie has a video out, and they're asking him questions, and he goes, do you have any calluses? I think they asked him, and he goes, no, it's like baby skin. So he also knows where that floor is when he hits that calfskin head in the rim as he's playing. He's not bashing into it, not like, bang! He's not doing that to his hands. He knows where that head is, and he's exciting the drum head to make the sound. The same way we are here. We're exciting the drum head to vibrate, not forcing the stick down into it and making it go. Argh! Make sense? It's a little more musical. It's a different sound when you learn to do it, and you'll find the shell of your drum opens up more, and you hear the tone of your drum and what note it's tuned to that you don't get when you hit with that much force. Remember, 90% of what you hear with the drum is the attack, not the drum. But if you make the head vibrate and you don't kill it, you get more tone out of your drum. That's one of the advantages of playing with a floor. It's the sound, not just speed. Yes, speed is an advantage once you learn to move with gravity, and if you're a fast person. But the other thing that happens is, well, if you're not that fast and you lift up this little weight repeatedly, you will grow more muscle and you will get faster. So there's two things going on there. But if you're just naturally a fast person from childhood, you run fast, you're faster than everybody at school, well, once you get onto this motion, not fighting gravity, you'll be real fast on the drums. Just, you know, what your body already does, if you don't mess it up with something unnatural, like being an 1890 marching drummer, all that tension in your upper body, holding the stick up, people don't even know they have that tension in their upper body because they've been playing like this for 10 or 12 years and holding that, and they're used to that, and it's not that much weight you're holding up. But those muscles, I don't care what you say, are engaged the minute you do that. And if you engage them in that little bit of tension for 10 years, well, you'll discover that it inhibits your ability to raise and move somewhere because that's tense, and you're trying to pull against that tension that you've been holding. So if you're a marching drummer and been doing this a long time, you know, it's going to take a little while to relax your shoulders and figure out how not to fire all that instead of your wrists. It's this group of muscles right here, your forearm. They wave your hand. That's all this is. It's just waving your hand and being relaxed and holding a few grams of wood. It's not that hard. Richard laughed at me kind of when I asked him a question like, well, how did you figure all this out? He says, well, I don't know. He says, I was 3.5 years old and I picked up a drumstick and that's what I did. And he said he never questioned it, he just did it. He said when he was around 5 or 6, he got a lesson from Frank Arsenault. His dad hired Frank Arsenault, he said, to come over to the house and teach him a lesson. And you have to remember that Richard Wilson was a child prodigy on violin and piano, and he did Carnegie Hall recitals in New York at 7 years old on those two instruments. So he's not just a drummer, you know, he's a little different than the rest of us. He said he was reading the New York Times at 2 years old and asking his parents questions. So he was a true, you know, genius, prodigy, whatever word you want to assign to him. But he said when he got to Murray after he met Louis Bellson, he took some lessons from Murray. Said he took 3 or 4 lessons, and Murray said, kid, you don't need any lessons. Don't ever study with any drummer. You already got it. And Richard, you know, he was about 9 or 10, I think he said, and he just was kind of like, oh, okay. He didn't really know what that meant, he said. He thought maybe just Murray didn't like him and didn't want to teach him. He wasn't sure. Okay, so that's how kids respond to adults, you know. But anyway, Richard's a little different than Murray, but he uses those same motions, and he said, you know, he was already doing what Murray was showing him, so he had no conflict with what Murray showed or taught. And Richard was the guy that Murray hired to teach at his drum studio when he was busy working on The Sound of Music. He was the sound engineer on that movie. Okay, so a little Hollywood history and whatnot here in this video. But the whole concept with this up and down stroke is relax, transfer weight, stop firing down, holding sticks in the sky, develop a floor. That's what you also learn from learning to drop. Where are you coming down to? How low? What is an inch high? It takes a while to find that in your body where you are. Be patient with yourself. Don't get frustrated. Just work on it. Over time, this shit works. Be patient.